Howdy everyone, and welcome back to The More You Grow. If you remember my last video, I said that I had a lot of things going on in my life and a lot of things keeping me busy, and that I would share with you in the next video everything that's happening and what's going on in my life right now. Well, we're going to do that in this video, and you may be wondering, where the heck am I at? What kind of place am I in right now? As you can see, I'm in a greenhouse, and I said when I was at A&M we wouldn't have access to the greenhouses anymore, that we'd have to figure out something new. Well, where I'm at right now is part of a new adventure and a new journey in my life. So come along with me and let's go check it out. So let me start from the beginning and tell you a little bit about what's been going on this year. And sorry if the wind is real crazy right now. It's going about 30 miles an hour outside. You may be kind of picking up on some of that, but we'll try to work through it. So this year in January, I started my clinical teaching experience. And what that means is I'm working to become a high school teacher as of right now. So as a high school teacher, I have to get certified to be able to teach. And part of that is my clinical teaching experience. So I'm at my hometown's high school teaching in the classroom. And what I'm teaching right now is horticulture, plant and soil science, and principles of technology, which is a version of physics. So I'm really excited about all that and the opportunity to do what I love. As y'all know, I love to talk about plants. I love to talk about how to grow things. So I feel like I'm really in my element here, teaching high school students on how to grow plants, how to propagate plants, and how to do different things here in the greenhouse. So I thought I'd bring you along to show you a little bit of what we got going on in the greenhouse and kind of give you a tour of what we're doing. Talk a little bit more about what I plan to do and what I plan to do in the future. So let me bring you around the greenhouse. So the main idea of what we're trying to do with students out here in horticulture and plant science in the greenhouse is to teach them how to grow their own plants, whether that be for commercial purposes or for home use out in the garden or in the flower bed. And a big part of teaching students on how to grow their own plants is how to start seeds successfully. So we have tons of flats in here of all different kinds of plants. We have a ton of tomatoes and peppers planted right now because they're very popular. And with tomatoes and peppers, you really want to start those 6 to 8 weeks before you plant them outside, because with transplants you're going to get quicker results, you're going to get quicker production on your plants. And with tomatoes and peppers, they don't do all that well when you plant them directly outdoors from seed, because they can either get an early frost, they're easily damaged. And if you start them 6 to 8 weeks early in like a greenhouse or inside, that means the faster you're going to get production rather than having to wait until after your last frost to plant a seed outside. So we have tons of tomatoes and peppers right now. We have a ton of flowers planted right now. We've got petunias, lobelia, we've got Shasta daisies planted. And we plant those because we like to sell those either as flats, or we're going to sell those as hanging baskets. As you can see right up here, we have tons of hanging baskets. Wandering Jew, we've got impatiens, we've got some Boston ferns. And that leads me to what we do with all these plants here in the greenhouse. We are selling them to the community to teach the students on how to run a greenhouse business, how they can be profitable in growing plants. And we're not making a ton of money by doing this. It's not a huge profit, but what we're trying to do is we're just trying to get enough to fund this program to continue on with other projects. So it's not about getting rich, it's about continuing on this process and teaching students on how to run a business, handle money, and start plants to be successful. So we have some other things here in the greenhouse. Let me show you those. Another really cool thing that we do here in the greenhouse is we actively invite the other teachers in the school and parents of some of the students to bring their house plants here to the greenhouse. And what we do with those is if they have like Boston ferns, ivies, other common house plants, we will show the students how they can propagate new plants from that large mother plant. So we show them how to take divisions from Boston ferns, cuttings from ivies and wandering Jews, and to divide things like just common house plants that you see all the time. And people always have the problem of their house plants getting either too leggy or they'll get too big for the pots and they start to break the pots. So it's a win-win for the teacher, because what we do is once we take those divisions and cuttings and we grow them out, we will return a brand new, healthy plant, just perfectly potted up, to the teacher that brought that plant in or the parent that brought that plant in, and they can take that back home and start all over new again. I think that's a really beautiful thing that is really helping the greenhouse out and the students out here by bringing their plants in, and it really helps the person that brought the plant in to be able to have a brand new plant that's super healthy, looks great for their home all over again. So it's not all about plants for profit here in the greenhouse and at the high school. One of the big things that we're trying to do is show them that where their food comes from. It's a big idea that not many kids, or even adults for that matter, realize where their food comes from and what fresh food tastes like. So we try to do what we can to show students what their food looks like when it's growing, what it looks like before it gets to the store. And one of the ways we're doing that is by planting some of that here in the greenhouse for them to experience. So right here we have all kinds of just salad bowl mix lettuce, and they love to come across here, pinch off a leaf every so often and just have a little snack. And every one of them exclaim, "Wow, this lettuce has so much flavor." Well, yeah, because it's fresh. It's not grown and taken to a grocery store, all that good stuff. Fresh food is going to taste differently, and for them to experience that is a huge deal for me, because then it opens their eyes to the possibilities. Well, if it tastes this good, why don't I just grow it myself? Or even if they don't go grow it themselves, they just realize that food doesn't come from the grocery store. Somebody's got to grow it, and that your experience from growing it yourself can be very rewarding. Another big part of our greenhouse here at the high school is our aquaponics setup. If you don't know what aquaponics is, it's where we take the waste from the fish in this big tank here, we filter that through a series of beds back here. We have float beds and gravel beds. We filter it through that. The plants and the bacteria take the waste out of the water and then return the water clean, nice, and fresh, full of oxygen back to our fish. And I'm going to do a whole video on the aquaponics setup and how you can set up your own in a future video. So until I can do an in-depth video on how to start an aquaponics system, let me give you a quick walkthrough of our aquaponics system and how we have it set up here in our greenhouse. To start off with, we have our large tank down here that have our fish. In our system, we use koi fish. We don't have a lot of fish in ours because we don't run a whole lot of plants through our aquaponics system, so we don't want to have too much waste that won't get filtered out by all the plants. So we have our koi fish down here, and they do a good job of producing our nutrients. That goes up to our float bed. Our float bed is where we start our cuttings. So here in the greenhouse, we like to teach students that seeds aren't the only way to start plants, that you can start plants from cuttings and divisions, other ways like that. So we take the cuttings, we show them how to root them out in the float bed, then we plant those out to start more plants. So once we go from our float bed, it is filtered over to our gravel beds. And our gravel beds do a good job of aerating the water. They take the rest of the nutrients out, in that we have plants in there. We'll be planting some leafy greens in there soon. We're going to be planting romaine lettuce, some herbs, and leafy greens are really good about taking out that nitrogen in the gravel beds because they use a lot of nitrogen to produce that green growth. So the best bet for most of your aquaponic system is going to be herbs like cilantro, some lettuce. You can have your romaine lettuce, things like that are really going to do well. So we have our gravel beds, and once it goes from our gravel beds, the plants take out the rest of the nutrients as far as the nitrogen, the nitrates, and then it filters back down into the pond as clean, oxygenated water for our fish, and then the cycle just continues on from there. So I will do an in-depth video on the aquaponic system here soon, so stay tuned for that. Well, that concludes the tour of the high school greenhouse that I work at now. I'm so excited to have the opportunity to be able to combine two of my biggest passions. One of those being plants, being able to grow new things, being able to come back and work in a greenhouse again. The other being my passion for teaching. I love to see students make new discoveries, to discover their passions in life, and to work hands-on and learn new things out here in the greenhouse. It just fills my heart with so much joy. So I hope this can be something that is more of a permanent thing where I can take on a full role as a high school horticulture teacher, but that's something that we'll just have to see what happens in the future. So until then, if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you have any more questions about what I'm doing as a high school teacher or what we're doing here in the greenhouse, leave that down in the comments. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Go check us out on Facebook and Instagram and hit that bell icon for notifications. And until next time, I hope you'll join me right here on The More You Grow.